Hey everybody, and welcome back for another episode of the HB AV Club. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about a release that I was pretty eager to see come out, and one that will take us back to the early pre-Flintstones days of the company. At the end of February of 2026, we saw the release of the Loopy De Loop, the Complete Collection Blu-ray from Warner Archive, which includes all 48 of the Loopy De Loop theatrical shorts produced by Hanna-Barbera between 1959 and 1965. After the tremendous success of the Huckleberry Hound show, Hanna and Barbera were back to producing animation for theatrical release through their partner, Columbia Pictures. These shorts featured a good-natured wolf named Loopy De Loop, who was always trying to rehabilitate the reputation of wolves and to change the whole negative stereotypes by performing good deeds for those in need, whether they wanted him to or not, and not always to a positive end for Loopy. In a lot of ways, and not just because of Loopy's French-Canadian background, the cartoons remind me of classic Pepe Le Pew and other popular Warner Brothers shorts. This should come as no surprise, as these early cartoons were written by Mike Maltese, who had left Warner's for Hanna-Barbera in 1958, and who wrote the Academy Award-winning For Sentimental Reasons a decade earlier, which was a Pepe Le Pew cartoon, as well as Warren Foster, who was also previously of Warner Brothers, and who came on to work at Hanna-Barbera in 1959 on Maltese's recommendation. Over time, the series would also see writing contributions from the likes of Tony Benedict and Dalton Sandifer, who were both working at the HB studio in the early 60s. Animation was done by HB stalwarts Ken Muse and Carlo Vinci for the first couple of years of the series, and the delightful backgrounds for the shorts were provided by other HB staple artists such as Monty Legre. The voice of Loopy is provided by Dawes Butler, and the series features many other great voice talents of the period such as Gene Vanderpyle, June Foray, Don Messick, Paul Frees, Arnold Stang, Mel Blanc, and many, many others. The music is by Hoyt Curtin, and fans of Hanna-Barbera shows will definitely recognize many of the cues which appear in various other HB shows. Now, this set consists of 2 BD50 discs in a standard dual-hubbed keep case with no slipcover. There are also no inserts or booklets, and each disc sits in its own spindle on either side of the case. Warner Archive has, as per usual, done a new 4K scan of the original negatives for the shorts, and the audio included is a DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 mono track. All pretty standard for Warner Archive releases. Assembled for the set are all of the 48 shorts that were produced by the studio between the years of 1959 and 1965. There are 24 shorts per disc, and they are included from what I can tell in their chronological release order. All the shorts are presented in a 1.37 by 1 aspect ratio, which is a standard theatrical aspect ratio for the period, and the picture definitely looks clean and sharp. The colors are vibrant and rich, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record on these reviews, this is the best the show has probably ever looked. There are color differences between some of the earlier shorts and the later ones, with Loopy and the environments sometimes looking a bit saturated, but I'm thinking that is most likely a Hanna-Barbera production choice of the time and not anything to do with the restoration or mastering of the discs. Now, the shorts were collected and presented in a television series that came out in 1969. I believe it was 2 or 3 shorts per kind of half-hour episode, and that iteration of Loopy De Loop ran, I think, until 1975. I mention it here only because these shorts are collected, they're presented basically preserving their theatrical exhibition. They could have released these to collect them as the television series, but since Warner Archive does kind of have a mission statement of presenting this stuff in its original format, they obviously went with the theatrical presentation, and I approve of this. And as for the shorts, do I like them? I do. To be fair, these are by no means comparable to the early Warner Brothers cartoons that I mentioned earlier, but they are still quite enjoyable, and I had a few chuckles throughout. They do seem geared towards a younger audience, and are similar in tone to the old Snagglepuss segments on the Quick Draw McGraw show, which again also makes total sense since they were being made around the same time and those Snagglepuss segments were also written by Mike Maltese. But as far as overall entertainment value, these are fun, and I enjoyed them, and they're of varying quality. You get 48 shorts, and, not everyone is going to be a winner, but if you're sitting down and putting on a few at a time just to kind of give yourself a little chuckle, these aren't half bad at achieving that goal. As per usual, I do wish there were some bonus features included. When you think of these shorts in the context of Hanna-Barbera's overall output, they are an interesting little sidestep to the kind of work they were producing at the time. They had started at MGM with the Tom and Jerry theatrical shorts, then had to move into TV when that studio shut down, revolutionized animation, and then were venturing back into theatrical animation. That's interesting to me. These are a curious blip in HB history, and, as the only theatrical shorts that they produced, it would have been interesting to see someone talk about the overall deal with Screen Gems and Columbia Pictures, why these exist, how they were put together, and stuff like that. It also might have been cool to see, the aforementioned television version of Loopy De Loop, to have maybe one episode just to kind of give a sense of what that would have looked like, what kind of bumpers the show had, what kind of main titles, and just to give a sense of, from an archival perspective, what was the second sort of version of Loopy De Loop like. Now, as I often say, I understand the financial side of these releases, and I know that producing new features is rarely in the cards. But if we sit idly by and say nothing, that also accomplishes nothing. You have to let the powers that be know these are things that we as collectors want with our releases. And I'm hoping that if we see success with these releases, they might come back to them and be like, you know what? Yeah, let's put something else with this. Or maybe going forward, the fan support will warrant them including stuff on newer projects. I don't know how much this set would appeal to, the real casual viewer, but I can definitely see somebody putting these on, keeping their kids entertained for a while. As the set is priced at a very reasonable $27.99 US, I could see some non-collectors taking a chance on trying these shorts out and having a good time. As for HB collectors, I do think this is a must-have. The first decade of HB output was a really great mix of shows and characters, and Loopy De Loop deserves his place on the shelf with your Huckleberry Hound discs, your Yogi Bear discs, and your Top Cat discs. As far as grading goes, I think I'm going to give Loopy De Loop the complete collection an A-. Honestly, this is a top-notch release that suffers only for its lack of bonus features. There's a definite appeal for the HB or animation collector, and there is some possible broad appeal to a more general audience. Overall, it's an entertaining show, and I think it has historical value in the overall output of the Hanna-Barbera studio. I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad I have a copy. If you have any interest in supporting Warner Archive's efforts to bring you material like Loopy De Loop, the complete collection, and have some curiosity about the show, head on over to moviezing.com, which is the online store for Allied Vaughn and a great place to get yourself a copy of this set or various other HB shows and movies. Speaking of Allied Vaughn, they provided me with the copy of this Blu-ray for review, and my opinions and ratings are entirely my own. I'd be curious to know what you all think about this release, so leave a comment in the comments section or wherever you're getting your podcasts, or feel free to email me at scoobypodcast@gmail.com. If I get some good messages and comments, I may just read them on a future episode of the HB AV Club. I would also encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to the episode and show if you haven't already. Reviews are always great too, as they feed the algorithm and help get the podcast into the eyes and ears of anyone who might be interested in what I talk about here, but don't yet know that I exist. Thanks again for checking out the HB AV Club. It looks like the next episode will most likely be on the Laugh Olympics release that is set for March. And then I'm not really sure where we're going to go after that, because from what I can see, there doesn't appear to be any HB animation for April release. So there might be something for May, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And I will probably have a podcast named Scooby-Doo episode, an interview episode of some kind, to come in and kind of fill that gap. So that's what we have to look forward to. So until next time, I've been your host, Mike Josick, and we'll see you on the next HBAV Club. Now go watch some cartoons.